Hi everyone, it's Mr. Nishatka here, and I hope that you're doing well. Today, we're going to venture away from the loops menu and explore some of the other possibilities that Soundtrap gives us in its vast capabilities. So, what I'd like you to do right now is open up a blank Soundtrap project, and I want you to come up and title it Recording Practice. All right? Then, of course, click Save once you get there. All right. Soundtrap can do so many different things. And it's really easy to start with the loops because it gives us a really solid grounding about one of the very basic aspects of Soundtrap. And it's impressive when you really think about the fact that Soundtrap can tap into a server somewhere and give you thousands of different loops at your disposal. But it's not the only thing that Soundtrap can do. It's a program that mirrors a professional digital audio workstation in a professional studio. And of course, as we all know, studio software can do a lot more than just provide us with audio loops. So today, we are going to explore the function that Soundtrap has to record. All right, to record our voices and record different other things into Soundtrap and what we can do with those recordings. So I think this one's a little bit more on the fun side and a little bit on the goofy side, but I'm glad we can explore this together. So what I'd like you to do is, instead of running over to that loops menu, which we've gotten so used to doing over the past few classes, I'd like you to come over here to the left-hand side to where it says Add New Track. And when that happens, you see that this menu pops up. Now, whenever we go into add a new track, Soundtrap is wondering, well, what are you going to do? All right, you're not coming over to the loops menu. You want to add a new track. What do you want to do? Should we access voices and microphones? Should I give you a virtual keyboard or a synthesizer? Should I give you a bass, a guitar, a virtual drum set, a guitar or bass amp, some orchestral instrument? There are so many different options that you have in front of you. So for this first little recording practice, we're going to go over to voices and microphones right here. All right. Now, a couple things that are really important for you to pay attention to on this is Soundtrap is going to want to know if it has your permission to access the microphones that are associated with your device. Now, since we're working with Chromebooks in this class, it's going to want to know if it can use your Chromebook microphone. You should click Allow. So that's something that Soundtrap can go and do for you. And you can always check on it by coming all the way over to your URL bar, clicking on that microphone, or on the Chromebooks, it looks like a little camera icon. And you want to make sure that it says microphone allowed up on top. All right, so that'll be confirmation that everything is working the way that you need it to. Now, with your Chromebooks, we want Soundtrap to be able to use your internal microphone. Okay, so you want to come over here and see that the input, or the way that you're putting data inside of your Chromebook, is selected to the internal microphone right here. Now I'm going to come down. I'm actually using a Yeti microphone right here. I'm using a podcasting microphone to record this video right here. So I'm going to come down and click my Yeti stereo microphone, but you're going to want your internal microphone to be set right there. And usually it's the default for you right there. Okay, as you can see, my Yeti is set. I have voice. So it's really easy at this point to start my recording. All I need to do is click Start Recording. So what I want you to record for yourself is say your name and 3 things that you enjoy doing. All right. So I'm going to start my recording. I'm going to notice that it's going to give me 8 beats of preparation time. And then once it does that, I can start talking and it will record whatever I say. So let's give it a shot right here. So again, my name and 3 things that I like doing. So I'm going to think about that right now. I'm going to start my recording. Sometimes it asks me if I'm using headphones, and because when you have the headphones plugged into your Chromebook, sometimes that overrides the microphone. So this is a really good way of letting Soundtrap know if you have headphones. So I'm not using them. Okay, to protect my ears. Great. Thank you, Soundtrap, for always thinking about me. My name is Mr. Nishatka, and 3 things that I love. I love drinking coffee, and I love eating chocolate, and I love teaching my students about electronic music. Okay, when I finished, I clicked stop. Now I can see right here that I have an audio region that's appeared. All right, and I'm going to get myself out of this half screen by clicking this X right here. Now, I also noticed that I must have had my sequencer bar starting a little after measure 17. So I'm just going to slide this all the way back to the beginning of my loop right here. One thing that I also notice is that this R is highlighted in red, is lit up in red, which means that my track is armed for recording. All right, so I'm going to move my sequencer bar back, and I'm going to listen to my recording.
My name is Mr. Nishaka, and three things that I love. I love drinking coffee, and I love eating chocolate.
True. Guilty as charged.
I love teaching my students about electronic music.
Yes. Okay. Really, who doesn't love coffee and chocolate? And teaching students about electronic music. Okay, so what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to just click this recording button off, because sometimes I find, particularly when I'm using an external microphone, I get a little feedback when I have that on. Now, I've got this recording in here. What are some things that I can do with it? I can do a lot of different things. So, in order to find all those different options for what I can do, I'm going to come over here to the edit button that appears when I hover my cursor over the audio region. And I can do a lot of different things. I can edit the name of my recording. So if I come in here, I'm going to say Mr. Nishaka Talks. Now, when I hover over, I see Mr. Nishaka Talks right here as the title of my loop. Okay, the next thing I can do is I can have a fade in. So this is going to fade my volume in. But notice, it really affects the very beginning of the loop. So it's not like in the last video, the Soundtrap Project 2 video, when I talked to you about automation. Remember, we spread that crescendo or that decrescendo over the course of the full loop. This one, as you can see, fades in.
My name is Mr. Nishaka, and three things that I love.
Okay, so I want to take that fade in out. So one of the things that I can do to easily make that happen is I can come up to this undo button, and I can do that. I can also hit Control Z. That'll also be Control Z is sort of my I call it my oops key. So it's my one move ago, my undo right there. So just like being able to fade in, if I wanted to, I could fade out, and I can see the same thing happens.
And I love teaching my students about electronic.
Okay. So again, I'm going to come back up here and I'm going to undo that fade out. So those are some things that I can do to change my recording a little bit, fade in. I can reverse it. Now, this one is a lot of fun. So there's a visual element to this as well. So take a look at what the sound waves in my recording look like. So when I go in reverse, look at it now. Get ready. This one's really fun. So if you're my student listening to this right now, you're probably thinking to yourself, that's the most sense he's ever made. So there we go with the reversal. It almost sort of sounds like I'm speaking a different language other than English, doesn't it? It's always fun to do that. So how do I reverse a reversal? Well, I can come and do my undo button again, or if I want to have some real fun, I can come in. If I reverse a reversal, guess what happens?
My name is...
I get right back. It's almost like flipping it back a second time. All right, I'm going to go back in, reverse, auto tune. All right, so if I want to come in and I want to set a specific note, or if I want to set a specific pitch, either in a light or a heavy way for the auto tune for my match to come in there, I can do that as well. I don't often find that I'm too interested in doing that. So I'm going to come back down to voice transform. Now here's where it becomes really fun. Okay, so to remind you,
is Mr. Nishaka.
You can sort of hear the pitch and the timbre of my voice, but if I want to come into voice transform, I can come and I can move my voice up. I can change the pitch and the character. First of all, I can move my voice up a certain level or down. I'm going to explore that more in the change pitch option down here. But in my voice transform, I can change the character of my voice in some different ways. I can make it a little darker, or very dark, a little brighter, or very bright. And then, of course, there are the three that we all love playing with the most: baby, robot, and alien. So I'm partial to the robot voice. Okay, this just gets really fun right here. So it's transforming my voice. All right, and as you can see, it sort of streamlined this sound wave right here. So we get...
My name is Mr. Nishaka, and three things that I love. I love drinking coffee, and I love eating chocolate, and I love teaching my students about electronic music.
And I promise you, when I'm drinking coffee and eating chocolate in particular, I certainly do not sound streamlined and robotic. Although maybe some of my students think that I do. All right, so if I come in and edit, I'm going to now... Actually, let me undo that first. Undo the last thing I did. Come in and edit, and let's go down to baby. Let's just hear what that sounds like, just for funsies. So it's transforming it into the baby voice.
Mr. Nishaka, and three things that I love. I love drinking coffee.
Kind of a mature sounding baby there, but you can see what it did. All right. So those are some other options that you can play around with to see what you can do. And finally, we can come down to changing our pitch. So we can go up 12 steps or we can go down 12 musical steps. So let's go up first just for fun. So I'm going to change my pitch. All right, it's moving along. Let's see what this sounds like.
My name is Mr. Nishaka, and
it's like Alvin and the Chipmunks, right?
I love drinking coffee, and
All right. And let me undo that to bring it back to where it was. Now I'm undoing every single time just so I can always start with my bass recording. But if you don't want to, if while you're experimenting, if you want to just go from one thing to the next, you can feel free to do that. But it's really important when you don't bring it back to your original recording that you sort of keep a mental track of where you are. So I'm going to come back in and I'm going to change my pitch to very low down here. And sometimes it takes a little bit longer than other times.
My name is Mr. Nishaka, and 3 things that I love. I love drinking coffee.
So it's fun, it's silly, it's everything that you can ever imagine. Okay. So one other thing that I can do here is I'm going to bring this back. One other thing that I can do, and it's going to be a lot easier if I zoom in for this, is I can make cuts or edits in my recording as well. So as you can see, I'm going to even zoom in even more. So up to this point, so watch my cursor in my sequencer bar, if you will. So up to this point, as you can see, I've got some dead space here. So if I want to, you don't need to hear me breathe. Okay, you just don't need that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over. I'll bring my sequencer bar to about here. I'm actually going to cut this out and delete it just to edit my recording just a little bit. Let me show you my face again. So I can edit my recording just a little bit. So I'm going to bring my sequencer bar over. Then I need to click the actual recording loop again. It's really important that I do that. Control E, or if I'm on a Mac, Command E. So look what happened. I got my own separate loop just for that breathing noise. All right. So I'm going to highlight it by clicking on it and click backspace or delete. Now I can move this back.
My name is,
which makes a much cleaner start to my recording.
Mr. Nishaka.
Okay, right here, I have another little dead space. I don't know that I would take this out just because it's in the context of my talking, but just to give you an idea of what you could do. So let me bring this back. Okay, so say I wanted to pull this little section out. I could do the exact same thing. I could highlight it, Control E, same thing, highlight it, highlight it, Control E, click on it, Control E, and then I could take this out as well. So if I wanted to be really efficient with my recordings and really edit some things down, those are some more options that I could have as well.
And 3 things that I love.
So I can sort of clean up my recordings in that way. And the next project that we look at, which is called the Alphabet Editing Project, you're going to need to be able to do that. So that's a skill that is really good to practice in the context of this recording practice. So what I'd like you to do is make your recording, just to remind you that that's your name and 3 things that you like. It really can be anything. I really wouldn't spend too much time thinking about what 3 things am I going to say I like. And as far as I'm concerned, you can make something up. I'm not going to know the difference. So do your recording, and I want you to explore the different treatments and try doing multiple treatments as well. So if you want to do the baby voice treatment as well as reverse everything that you have, you can go ahead and do that as well. All right. So just know too that if you cut your recording here, every time I hover over one of these recordings, I have a new edit button. So as you're cutting your recording, keep in mind that this edit button is now only going to have authority over this edit right here, and this one over this portion of my recording. All right. So the more you cut and the more you make a split, the more edit buttons you have. So that's just another thing to keep track of. So enjoy this. I think this is one of the more fun things that we do here, and see if you can make this really entertaining for yourself. So happy playing with the recording controls.